So she takes me to an AA meeting and they tell me to pray. I said, to what? I didn't believe in God. And they said, well, find something in the universe bigger than yourself. That single question, does God exist? And if he does, who is he? Overrode my life for about 8 years.
God is a delusion, Jesus is a myth, Christianity is a fairy tale. These are the types of things that comedian Jeff Allen used to believe. And you might be wondering, what would cause a sane, grown man to change his opinion and to actually come to believe that Jesus Christ is real? Whether you're watching this as an atheist or as a believer, there's definitely something of merit in this for you. So let's get into it.
I had a lot of learning to do. If God had sat me down on day one of Alcoholics Anonymous and said, this is what I'm going to put you and your wife through for the next 8 years, but at the end of these 8 years, you're going to know my son, Jesus Christ, and you're going to know a peace that you never knew could exist on this planet, I would have never signed on. 8 years into my search, people were still telling me, you need a higher power, you need a higher power. And I go, what is that? And they go, well, it's whatever you want it to be. It's just, I said, look, if I'm making up a deity, that makes me delusional. I get it. God exists or he doesn't. But what is this? I mean, it's great until you got life. Death of a child, a loss of a job, cancer. And you're on your knees praying for some calm in the middle of a storm. That's all I want. You want some peace in the storm. Grant me the serenity, accept I can't change the circumstances, but I can certainly accept it. Please help me. And your brain is chirping, what are you praying to? Who are you praying to? You made it up. And in the same token, if I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous 32 years ago and somebody would have put me an arm around me and said, you need Jesus Christ, I'd have left. God put me right where I needed to be, with the people I needed to be, and I needed time. I'm a skeptic at heart. I'm not an easy sale, let's put it that way. I wasn't coming into a church. I met God and his disciple on a golf course. And we were working together. He was a millionaire. He was doing comedy for a hobby for $100 a week. And I was reading Ayn Rand at this point. I went through New Age. I went through Buddhism. I went through, Socrates said an unexamined life is not worth living. I was examining my life and still doing those prayers. Remove me from the bondage of self. So we're on a golf course one day, and I'm talking about Ayn Rand, and I'm talking about this and that, and I said, if it's materialism, maybe I can make enough money. I can keep the house, and maybe Tammy will be happier. So how do you accumulate wealth? He said something like, you cannot begin to enjoy the creation till you have a relationship with the one who created it. Yeah. He said, materialism never will bring you joy. I said, that sounds cool. Where'd you read that? He goes, it's in the Bible. I go, the Bible. Okay. A couple holes went by. He said something else. I go, that's great. Where'd you read that? He goes, the Bible. I said, stop it with the Bible. He goes, what do you mean? I go, who reads the Bible? I mean, really? A little archaic. God's word. Come on. We're in the 20th century here. He said, well, let's back up. What's in the Bible you don't think is true? I go, I don't know. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. Let alone, I've never read the Bible. He goes, then you're not an atheist. You're a moron. Anybody here knows that clicked. I wanted to hit him, but I had enough restraint. I said, well, how so? He said, I'll give you the short answer. To discount an infinite God and an infinite universe, which you're denying exists as an omniscient being, in order to truly deny that, you yourself have to be omniscient. It's a self-defeating argument. You cannot defend an absolute negative. I looked at that man and said, what? He said, I say this out of love. You're not smart enough to be an atheist. I said, you don't know either. He goes, I think I do. And he said, I'd like to help you out. This is discipleship. I'd like to help you out. I said, how so? He goes, I go to a church in Denton, Texas. They have a tape ministry. He teaches the Bible. I think you'd enjoy his teaching. He doesn't condescend, and he doesn't hide and run from the hard verses. I think you'd enjoy that. I said, will it cost me any money? He goes, nope. And I said, well, you send me what you want. He said, can I send you a Bible? I said, you can send me whatever you want, as long as I don't have to pay for it. The Bible came 3 days after we parted company. I threw it in a junk drawer. The tape started coming. In a year and a half, God put my wife and I through hell, to the point where we were 10 minutes from filing divorce papers. We had them filled out. We had them notarized. And 10 minutes from the courthouse, Tammy says, this is wrong. Let's go home. If you don't think God will bring you to the edge of your life, I drive 10 more minutes. I drop those papers off. I lose 23 years with a woman I never knew I could love the way I love this woman. I would not know my grandson. I would not know. I don't even want to go down the long litany of things I would lose. And it wasn't easy. But we went home. After 6 months, she takes the kids. She goes, I'm going to Ohio. I'm getting away from you for a few months. I'm taking them to my parents. You need to figure out what you're going to do with your adult life. If you don't want to do comedy, don't do comedy. But Jeff, you got to do something. We're losing the house. And as she leaves, she gathers up these tapes and she throws them at my feet. And I got to hurry up here. But the first one I opened up was Ecclesiastes, the book of Ecclesiastes. I couldn't even pronounce Ecclesiastes. So anyway, then I remember I got a Bible. It's in the junk drawer. If you got a junk drawer, nothing ever leaves the junk drawer. Until you get a shed. That's a suburban version of a junk drawer. So anyway, I pulled the Bible out, opened up Ecclesiastes from the beginning of that tape. Meaningless, meaningless. All in life is meaningless. My heart leapt. Oh! I went, whoa! That's true. That summed up 8 years. I came to those same conclusions. Nothing of this earth will ever give you lasting joy. And basically what I got out of that first sermon was this. Life without God will have no meaning. Without meaning to your life, there's no purpose to your life. Without purpose to your life, you might as well off yourself. And I heard that sermon and I went, oh, that's in the Bible. So I ripped open every envelope looking for more Ecclesiastes tapes. There's got to be another one in there. And the other one was, if happiness was an act of human will, we'd all be happy. Because you ask anybody what they want out of life, they're going to tell you, I want to be happy. What do you want for your kids? I want them to be happy. Well, how do you define that? If it's the next iPhone, the next gym shoe, the next house, the next car, the next relationship. We live in a wealthy, wealthy nation. You could stuff that into your body forever if you got enough money and resources. Blaise Pascal described it as a God-shaped hole that's inside every human being. And we keep trying to stuff the world into this hole, and it never lasts and it's never satisfying. But the truth is, something outside of us has to come inside of us, and it works its way out into the form of service. Service. You want to be loved, you got to be loving. So then you ask yourself, well, how is that? What does loving look like? Well, Ephesians gave us an entire book on how I'm to love my wife. And we have built our marriage on the foundation of that for 22 years. We have tried. We've tried. It's far from perfect, believe me. But that is our go-to. We go to the Bible. I'm telling you, I did a year and a half's worth of Bible study in about 2 months. I was in the car, staring with one leg, making notes in my Bible. I almost met Jesus before I met Jesus. And people were waving one finger at a time at me. Just, hey, hey. I gave my life to Christ 20-some years ago. But what that means is, to put it in perspective, that would be like me driving a Yugo, 74 Yugo, into a Lamborghini dealership and then telling the salesman, all right, I'm ready to trade you even up. If you want to know what service looks like, go to the cross. Just look at what was done on the cross. Look at Jesus' life. That is service. That is love, to sacrifice for another.
I want to read this to you guys really quick. This is Matthew 18. It says this. At that time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a little child to him and placed the child among them. He said to them, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes one such as a child in my name welcomes me." Then a few verses later, he says this, "If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills to go look for the one that wandered off? If he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about the one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish." You can see the heart of God is for us, not against us. The great overcomer of the problem of evil. God himself. Christ, the hope of glory. I hope that when you hear this, your heart doesn't harden against it and say, I don't need that. I don't need forgiveness. I'm not affected by the problem of evil. I'm above it. I'm outside of it. No, you're not. You're very much a part of it. So am I. We all need God because we're all equally in a state of deficit. It's a hard pill to swallow to acknowledge that we're all closer to Adolf Hitler than we are Jesus Christ. From a moral perspective, God sets the record straight, takes our place, washes us clean. But then more than that, it's not just getting righteous. It's becoming suitable for him. He is the joy of heaven. He is the reward of heaven. Knowing God is not just an idea, it's a reality. You can actually know your Creator through Jesus Christ in relationship. His peace passes understanding. His Spirit is available to you. If you're a believer and you know what it's like to live apart from and with God, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not, it could sound crazy, but you need to be willing to come to him on his terms and say, God, if you actually are real, if you actually have something for me, if I'm really not alone in this cosmos, if I'm really here on purpose, not by accident, but on purpose, then God, will you make it clear to me? That's the type of prayer you have to pray. You have to open yourself up to even the possibility of God and say, God, if you're really real, if the gospel is really true, if you really came and died for me and bled for me, if you really want me, then I want you. Pray that prayer, I challenge you, and see what happens. Dig into the Word of God, even if you're allergic to it, even if you think it's crazy. Read the book of John, read the Gospel of John, see what happens. I say that because I know that there's power in it, and I know that the power in it is from the most powerful source in the universe, God himself. So I'm praying today for every person watching this video that today would be the day of salvation. Thanks for your time. See you guys in the next one.